the first question. Dear Lumpur, thanks for the Dhamma talk. May I know if you will be able to share with us on the reasons why the female lay people can only go for ordination once, while the males can have up to 7 times to ordain? Where should a female layperson be looking for their teachers if they have the intention to ordain under the Theravada tradition?
Well, one good thing about Thailand is you have this tradition of white-robed nuns, and there's no limit to the number of times you can become a white-robed nun. They keep the 8 precepts, or sometimes the 10 precepts, meaning they relinquish the use of money as well. And so my teacher, Ajahn Chah, used that system because that's the sort of prevailing system in Thailand. They do have what we call modern bhikkhunis, the revival of the bhikkhuni lineage in Thailand, not in large numbers, but they are there. But the white-robed nuns, you can practice as many times or ordain as many times as you want. I mean, whether you want to be a monk or a nun, I wouldn't recommend sort of thinking in those terms, oh, I'm going to ordain many times in my life, because it probably comes from various not such good qualities such as doubt, worry, anxiety, various attachments which may bring you back to the lay life, and then you want to ordain again. And, this back and forth is not the ideal. If you can avoid it, just ordain once, good enough. But the reality is, of course, sometimes people do reach a point where they feel stuck in the practice, or there's some pull back to the lay life, to the world, so they do disrobe, monks and nuns, and then maybe want to ordain again. So as far as the white-robed nuns, in that tradition, you can ordain as many times as you want. There's no limit. But it also depends on the place. So some places, some teachers, some sanghas will put various limits. Maybe somebody's ordained before and they feel, well, this person isn't suitable for monastic training. So the aspirant may still have a wish to be a monk or a nun, but the group in that monastery decide, well, we've tried you once, it didn't go so well for whatever reasons, perhaps. Maybe you have illness as well, physical disabilities or age. As we get older, sometimes it's harder to practice. I'm just talking generally here. So sometimes people, the opportunities to ordain sort of start to run out the older you get, or the iller you become, for example. Or if you find it difficult to keep the discipline of a monk or a nun, then of course that may put burden or pressure on the rest of a community. So they may decide not to accept you a second time or a third time, perhaps. Many people in the West find going to Thailand, practicing as a female monastic, challenging, partly because of language, partly because of culture. So you have to see where you can be comfortable. So if you want to become a nun, you have to look around, as it were, find a place where you find that the teacher inspires you, what they teach makes sense to you, and the conditions are reasonable that you can live in that place. So it could be in one of the Western countries, or it could be in Thailand, or could be even in a Mahayana country, but you're interested in Theravada, being a Theravada nun. So you have to go around, see what's available. Nowadays, people are doing that a lot. They go around online, websites, YouTube, and so on, get familiar with the teachings available in the different places where you can ordain as a nun, and then actually physically go there and try it out as a temporary thing. Maybe spend at least a few weeks in a monastery, or ideally a few months, seeing how they practice, how they live, whether you get on with that system. So it could be in the Ajahn Chah lineage, or you could go into another lineage, this is for you to experiment and find out what suits you. But I've always found Ajahn Chah's teachings very practical and ideal for Dhamma practice as a monastic. And that, I'm not a nun, I'm not a female, so I can't speak for the females, but the nuns I know who practice in Thailand in the Ajahn Chah lineage are generally quite happy and satisfied with the system of training on offer. And the nuns I've met that have attained deep levels of samadhi and deep levels of insight, and what you would call Aryapugalas, those nuns have all been within the Thai forest tradition. So in particularly in northeast Thailand, but not only in northeast Thailand, but generally more in the northeast Thai region, there are some well-practiced nuns. So maybe a trip to Thailand would be in order, ideally with someone who can speak a bit of Thai, who can maybe help you get more out of such a trip. You go and visit some of these nuns and just be willing to learn. Like I was saying, be willing to be patient with the system of training, because when we first enter the monastery, it's difficult. We have a lot of resistance and our own views and opinions, and our ideals and desires and attachments are all coming up. And that's the same for men or women. So you have to be patient with that and be willing to work with your own mind wherever you go. So as I said, perhaps my experience is more limited. I've always stuck within the Thai forest tradition, but I've always found that good enough for getting from A to Z, A being unenlightened mind, suffering, Z being nibbana. So, well, sometimes we say A to B, don't we? So getting from A to B, B being nibbana, A being unenlightened mind that's suffering. Ajahn Chah and the Lumpur Man lineage has been, for me, good enough. So that's what I would encourage you to try. But you have the freedom to look around, try experimenting, but you have to do that, don't you? You have to take the plunge, take time off work, or use your long service leave, or whatever opportunity you have, I don't know your background, but go and stay in these places and try practicing. That's what I did. When I was a student, I went and stayed. I went to Ajahn Chah's monastery, and then I stayed at Wat Nanachat, the international monastery, and I just said, can I do this? And I wasn't sure that I could. So I set myself a few targets. I said, I've got to be able to get up in the morning, because in Thailand, you get up at 3 a.m. Have to be able to eat one meal a day, no food afternoon. And then those are my first two kind of doubts. And then the third doubt I had was, can I stay up meditating all night, just as we did last night here? And I wasn't sure whether I could do that, because I couldn't sit meditation for very long. My legs hurt too much. I could sit maximum 1 hour when I first arrived in the monastery. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to stay up meditating all night, how on earth will I do that? Well, I realized, well, I can always walk meditation. You're allowed to do that. So the first all-night meditation session I attended was on day 3 in the monastery. And I did it all night. And I was very inspired seeing the locals who weren't nuns, but the more women than men. There were quite a few men, but there were many more women doing the all-night meditation, and some of them could sit up straight all night without moving. And they might have been 50, 60, even 70 years old. So I looked at them and I thought, oh, they can do that. I've got to learn how to do this. The problem is not the system of training now. The problem is me, whether I'm going to be lazy or I'm going to train myself. But I couldn't sit all night like they could. So, practice is not about gender, it's about whether you're cultivating the qualities, the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. And I could see those people had great faith and they put a lot of effort into their practice. I couldn't sit more than an hour. So the first time I did the all-nighter, I just went and did walking meditation, ended up walking non-stop for 6 hours because I couldn't sit. But I did it. And it was hard, but I did it. And then in the morning, I said, well, I can do everything that is required of a Buddhist monk. I can eat 1 meal a day. I can get up at 3 a.m. I can do the all-night meditation. So I made my aspiration on the morning after the all-night meditation to become a Buddhist monk with Ajahn Chah. And I haven't been disappointed myself. I've only been inspired and impressed with the teachings, with the way of training, with all the monks and nuns and lay people that I've met. I've only found good things, really. So that's just sharing a bit of my personal experience with you, and I encourage you to get out there and do your practice. Go and stay in monasteries, see what works for you, and you may find a teacher or a place that suits you.
Sadhu, Lampo. The next question. Dear Lampo, if one is having a headache or not feeling well, is one encouraged to continue doing sitting, or should one let their body rest?
Yeah, it's possible both answers are correct. Sometimes you do have to assess your health as you're meditating and practicing, especially if you're trying to do an all-night meditation session. You have to accept sometimes you might be too ill to do it and you just have to rest. That's entirely understandable, acceptable. But if it's just something fairly minor, like a little bit of tension or a little bit of pain or, mild headache or, just a cold, it's not COVID or something, but just a cold or mild cold, maybe you can carry on meditating through it. And we can experiment and just see. If you reach your limit and you're just totally wiped out, you have no energy, you can't do anything, and you're in pain and you're in danger of making your health worse, well, then yes, go and rest. Don't push too hard. But if it's just a few unpleasant symptoms and feelings and your general health is not that bad, well, maybe try pushing through it a bit. You may be pleasantly surprised at how much patience, strength you have. And many people have found that things like headaches and mild symptoms of different kinds have faded through the practice. But you have to get to know yourself and, get to know your ability and your level of endurance and your level of faith and commitment and, your level of experience. So someone like Ajahn Chah could meditate through life-threatening malaria and still meditate with the fevers, the weakness, and get through it without medication. But that's Ajahn Chah, and he was like, at the peak of his practice, becoming an arahant, we believe. Not everyone is going to be at that level. So you have to be honest with yourself. And if your meditation is not that, you're new to it, you're not that experienced, meditation is not that established yet, well, don't push yourself to the point where you do yourself an injury or you make yourself ill or something. Try to approach the practice in a balanced way. But generally speaking, people have more reserves of energy and effort and good qualities than they realize. And so part of the training is to find ways to bring these reserves out and use them. Because you only live once, don't you? Like, you could spend your whole life saying, oh, my body is weak, I'm ill, I can't do this, can't do that. And then you get to the end of your life and you've missed out. So sometimes, maybe sometimes, push yourself a little bit more than you would like. And you may find that you get some good results from that. You know, our comfort zone, one thing is the boundaries can shift with experience, with increased wisdom, mindfulness, understanding of the Dhamma, then maybe your comfort zone changes. In the beginning, you may be very limited in what you can do, but then gradually you gain more endurance. Just like, say, somebody learning to run, you know, the first time you run, you can run 1 kilometer and that's it. You're just exhausted and that's it. But if you keep running every day, after a year, you might be able to run many kilometers and soon you can run marathons. But that has to come through training, doesn't it? Through practice. And that's the same with meditation. As you train, you become wiser, more aware of yourself. You understand your own body better, your own limits, your own strengths better. Then you'll know what you can do without damaging your health, and when you really need to rest, you'll know then as well. So it comes through the practice that you have to try, and sometimes you make mistakes. If it's only a minor mistake, well, never mind. Just learn from it.
Sadhu Lumpur. The next question. Dear Ajahn, how does the mind get purified by seeing?
By seeing.
By seeing. Seeing.
Seeing, as in seeing with the eyes. Sorry for my stupidity. Well, I think we're probably referring to like what we call jnana dasana. So it's true knowledge and vision of the way things are, which is kind of like where the 8 factors of the Noble Path are all manifesting in the mind together, supporting insight or clear seeing, clear knowing of the way things are, clear knowledge and vision. But when we talk about the Dhamma, often we use shorthand, and language is like that. Sometimes it's not as, we don't express as clearly as it could be expressed because you're just talking a lot, talking about things. So sometimes we just say, oh, see the Dhamma. If you see the Dhamma, then all your suffering disappears. So you have to say, well, what does seeing the Dhamma mean? And then as you investigate that term and that way of talking, then you start unpacking it and realizing what it means, the training of the mind in this Noble Eightfold Path. So that means right view, right thought, right livelihood, right speech, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. All 8 factors are leading to clear seeing or true knowledge and vision of the way things are. But it's just easy to say it, isn't it? Oh, he has seen the Dhamma. That, Venerable Kondanya, they say the Dhamma eye arose in Kondanya, and he saw the Dhamma, saw that the 5 khandhas, form, feeling, perceptions, thought formations, and sense consciousness are impermanent. He saw that, meaning he understood that with his mind in an undiluted way, and it removed certain mental defilements from his stream of consciousness. Not all the defilements, because he became a stream enterer on seeing the Dhamma, but he had clear insight into the impermanent nature of body and mind. We say the conditioned nature of body and mind. They're not just a fixed entity self. So self-view disappeared for Kondanya when he saw the Dhamma. So it's a combination or a culmination of the practice and a combination of different factors arising in the mind. But for ease, we just say seeing the Dhamma. It's different from just remembering the Dhamma. That may be one way of putting it. We can remember the Dhamma, like we can give a talk based on memory, what we remember. We can read a book and remember that. But when we actually know and see the Dhamma for ourselves, it has a purifying effect on the mind because it takes away delusion. It's like, turning the light on in a room, that you're in that room wandering around in the dark, bumping into things. You turn the light on, then you can see where everything is. So you can see a defilement as a defilement. It's one of the delusions of the unenlightened mind is you don't even recognize a defilement as a defilement yet. The light switches off, so you're in the dark. You don't see yet. You don't see anger as a defilement fully. You don't see greed as a defilement. You don't see jealousy and laziness and conceit as defilement yet. So then you don't abandon them or don't make the effort to abandon them. But one who has opened the Dhamma eye, they're seeing clearly, then they see a defilement as a defilement, a cause of suffering, and they'll say, oh, this is to be abandoned. And there's no doubt about that. And they're very clear because they're seeing the Dhamma, they'll be clearly wanting to abandon that defilement. And it's almost like you could say automatic. They naturally will be abandoning defilements because they know a defilement as defiling, as a cause of suffering. So there's a lot to seeing the Dhamma or seeing. We could talk all night about it, but maybe I'll just say that much for now, and then we can talk again next time.
Sadhu Lumpo. The next question. Dear Ajahn, when we apply wisdom here and now, is it still necessary to do vipassana after samadhi?
Yes. You have to practice vipassana all the time. But it's not so effective when we haven't yet developed strong mindfulness, and that's what samadhi is strong, continuous mindfulness. So we can practice vipassana right here, right now, when your mind is all over the place. You have to be honest, sometimes our mind is all over the place, not happy, not peaceful, agitated, worried, angry, greedy. You can practice vipassana right there. It just won't yet be fully effective in uprooting and removing that particular mental defilement or mental state, because perhaps your mindfulness and insight is not that clear, and the mindfulness not that firm. It doesn't mean to say you can't practice it. It just means you're not yet good at it, and we have to practice. That's why we practice. So keep watching and learning from your own experience. I often tell people, if you find it hard to meditate and catch mental states and feelings as they arise because your mind is restless and distracted, one thing you can do is sit down and just reflect on what's gone on in the past. Take some time to reflect on your past experiences. There have been times when you've been really sad or really worried or really angry or really obsessed and greedy with something. But maybe at this moment when you're reflecting like this, none of those experiences are arising. They all arose and passed away in the past. You were angry before, now it's gone. You were greedy before, now it's gone. You were in a jealous rage before, now it's gone. You were worried or afraid before, now it's gone. That's a very useful, simple way just to get an insight, a beginning insight into impermanence. And the next time you're experiencing some of those same mental states, you say, this will arise and pass away because I've seen it arise and pass away before. So you get like a little bit more insight that way. Or the same with painful feelings. Like if you're meditating, you have pain in your leg, you say, oh, I can't sit meditation anymore. This pain is so intense. I just can't do it. I can't. Hold on before you move. Just stay. Hold on though. I've had this kind of painful feeling before, and it arose, it passed away. Didn't last that long. When I finished the meditation, it completely disappeared. Maybe if I just wait and watch this time, I will also see it arise and pass away, but without having to do anything much other than just watch. Because I've seen it arise and pass away before, maybe that can happen this time. These kinds of insights, I'm just giving you simple examples where you base your reflection, your vipassana on past experience, and then start applying it in the present moment. And you can see things are arising and passing away, changing, feelings, thoughts coming and going, the changes in the body. So you can practice vipassana before you've developed samadhi, after you've developed samadhi, but it's something you have to practice and train in. And you'll get better at it as mindfulness improves, and as samadhi improves, then your vipassana will improve with it. So they go hand in hand. Ajahn Chah used to say they're two sides of the same thing. You point to a piece of wood and say you pick the piece of wood up, vipassana is at this end, samatha or samadhi is at that end. You pick the piece of wood up, both ends arise at the same time. So it's just your one mind with samatha and vipassana at either end of your one mind. And sometimes you're focusing more on the vipassana, the contemplation, sometimes more on the samatha, just calming the mind, developing the mindfulness. So there's a little bit of alternation there, isn't it? So you can't predict this in the sense that, you know, as we practice, you'll get to know yourself what you need. And sometimes you need more insight, and sometimes you need more samadhi and more mindfulness. You just see what you need.
Sadhu Nompo. The next question. Dear Ajahn, is the distanced seeing the same as non-self?
What I'm not sure exactly what you mean by the distance seeing, but sounds like the path. You know, I should cultivate the path of sila, samadhi, and panya, samatha and vipassana. You know, this is the means by which you're seeing or coming to the realization of non-self. So you'll probably, before you finally experience non-self and purify the mind of the delusion of self, you'll probably see non-self in different parts of aspects of your experience over and over again, many, many times, until your mind gets the message. If you're like me and you're a bit slow, slow to get the message, you have to keep contemplating, keep doing it until your mind really says, oh, this is not self. And then it will let go of self. Self is an idea, really, isn't it? It's just a thought. I am, this is me, I am this is mine, belongs to me. What helps is experiencing the peaceful mind. It's like a temporary relaxation or ending of the sense of self. When you develop stillness of mind, samadhi, and your mind is not thinking anything and it's not caught up into feelings and perceptions, it's just with one object, very peaceful. You get an idea of this luminous, peaceful mind, and that gives you something to compare everything else to. So it's not nibbana, but it's like a taste or a very close to nibbana. And it's very close to not self, because in that moment, your mind is not wanting anything, grasping at anything, seeking anything. It's just content within itself. So then when you reflect back on that, everything else is seen for what it is. The sense of self is seen as full of grasping and attachment and leading to suffering. Whenever you pick up the sense of self, whether it's attaching to the body, feelings, thoughts, you start to suffer. So the mind of radiant stillness, of samadhi, helps you to see not self. So it's a very important step to develop that. You know, it's like, what do we call it? We compare it to a mirror. The mind is like a mirror. So samadhi is like you've had a good session cleaning up your mirror. So it's now free of dust and dirt, and your mirror is very bright, clear, looks good. Once you've experienced that, then of course the next time a bit of dirt gets onto your mirror, you'll notice it and you'll know that this is diminishing the clarity, the radiance and the brightness of your mirror because it's dirt. Now you'll see the dirt very quickly, very easily, because you've experienced a clean mirror. So samadhi has that role. It helps vipassana because it helps expose self and the attachment to self and the suffering it leads to. It leads to more becoming, birth, suffering. It exposes that. So it's a very useful quality to have. It's an essential quality to have. So it's not complete insight into not self, but it's an important step into understanding not self. And that everything else other than the mind that is radiant and still is a manifestation of self. It's the self-creating process, that makes karma, good and bad karma. So you need to develop that stillness of mind in order to see how self comes up and how we keep recreating it and holding on to it.
Sadhu Lompo. The next question. Lompo, please help. How to deal with a Meichi who is full of mental proliferation and getting agitated and angry easily?
Meichi. Oh, none. Well, anyone who's angry and full of mental proliferation and not very peaceful, well, number one is compassion, isn't it? Try to understand them, sympathize with them, not make their situation worse. And that's a practice in itself, isn't it? If someone you're living with or close to is agitated, very easy for them to set you off, isn't it? You may get agitated because they're agitated. So you have to be very calm around them. You mentally prepare yourself whenever you talk to them or interact with them because you know how they are. So bring up the compassion, the patience, the mindfulness when you're around them. So you can be a friend to them, assist them, and then get them to the kind of help that they need, depending. So, I don't know this person, this Meichi, this nun, how bad it is. So whether she actually needs medical help, from a doctor, psychologist, somebody like that, counselor, or it's more just a temporary arising of different mental states that can be worked with in the monastic setting. If she's in a monastic setting, she can practice patience, mindfulness, meditate, keep going with her practice to get through this mental agitation. There's a difference here, because I don't know the person, I can't really say, but you have to help her get that understanding. Is this something that's more like a medical condition that needs medical help, maybe medication, counseling, therapy, and so on? Or is it more just like a temporary manifestation of mental defilements that you can work through and let go? And there's a big difference there. There's a sort of wide spectrum, isn't there, between just mental states that are agitating, make us angry, make us upset, but can be understood, let go of through the practice, or more serious mental instability that maybe has deeper roots, causes to do with the past of that person, maybe what they've done in the past, what's happened to them in the past, maybe physical illness as well. You have to help them assess that and get them to the kind of help they want. So, getting them to an experienced practitioner. If they're in a monastic setting, there may be a senior nun, or they have a teacher. It could be a monk or a nun that they could go to talk about this, and you can maybe help them get to that person and encourage them to seek help. So I can't give a specific answer here, but be a good friend to them yourself and then try and get them to the kind of assistance that they need.
Sadhu Lumpur. The next question. Mother has a serious lying tendency and more, and she also starts to be delusional that she starts to accuse. My father has an affair which we do not know that is not true. They are in their 80s. I don't know how to keep my mind in a positive state when interacting with my mom. Ajahn, please help.
Forgive her. As we get older, our faculties get weaker, and if someone hasn't trained that much, say in mindfulness and insight, they may not be aware of what's going on or able to deal with it that well. So yeah, we have fantasies, imagination can take over very easily. We imagine things. We fall into more extreme emotional states as we get older because the body's getting weaker. That can mean we have more anger and irritation. We have more fear. We can have more confusion and so on. So be very understanding, accepting, if someone's in their 80s, then it's quite not surprising, not unusual for these things to happen, and it may manifest this way. They've got a strong love or attachment for the husband, so it may manifest in suspicion of the husband having an affair or whatever. I don't know the whole background story, whether the husband has had an affair before. There's grounds for this suspicion or not. I don't know, but just try to treat them with understanding. And it's your mum. If it's your mum, you never have to get angry with your mum. Always forgive your mum. Always be patient with her. Always be there for her. And if you know the problem, that she's getting lost in delusions, imagination, well, just keep that awareness in the forefront of your mind when she starts speaking in that way, so that you don't take it too seriously or don't reinforce it or believe it maybe, and then also don't get upset by it. It's just, oh, that's the way she is at this stage in her life. She's become like this. You just have to accept that. For yourself personally, you may also reflect, oh, I don't want to be like this when I get old, so I'm going to have to make sure I do more of my mindfulness meditation, listen to the Dhamma, keep my precepts, train in the Dhamma, because I don't want to be like this. And if the more you practice the Dhamma, it may help you not to behave in a similar way. But with your mum, just give her the love and support that she needs, and try to get everyone to see this. Don't, if you're sure it's all just imagination, not true, well, don't take it seriously and tell everyone else. Don't get worried about it. Don't get angry about it. It's just mum doing her thing. Laugh about it, maybe smile, or just be accepting. No need to be critical, because it may be associated with degeneration of the memory, the brain, and the control of her faculties. It's just aging. When we get older, things go wrong. You can't control the body very well, mobility issues, it's difficult going to the toilet, it's difficult eating food. And then mentally, we can also go downhill, and you have to accept that. With aging, it's like that. But just give her lots of love and support, and don't worry about it, and certainly don't get angry with her, because she probably can't do anything about this situation now. You just have to help her through it for for her remaining years.
Sadhu Lumpur. The next question. Dear Lumpur, how important is it to have a personal relationship with a teacher as a Sangha member? If someone is ordained and they feel they don't have that at their monastery, should they leave and try to find a teacher that they resonate with?
Well, if you don't have a teacher to go to yet, I wouldn't leave. I would wait. I would practice with the situation you're in first. And then maybe if over time you hear of a teacher, you get the chance to meet that teacher, someone you've heard or heard them speak. You find them inspiring. What they say makes sense. You've heard good things about them. Well, if you get the chance, maybe visit them. You can go and stay with them if you can. You can do that, but don't rush into these things, because sometimes it's your own mind is the problem. It's not really that your teacher or your poor relationship with your teacher or lack of relationship is the problem. It may be you. And we often project our own personal issues onto the things around us. So a common one is to project it onto a teacher. Say, oh, this teacher is no good, or not the right one for me. This place is no good, not the right one for me. We do that just as people go to get a job somewhere and then start, after a few months, start complaining about the boss or the manager or the place. We do that in monasteries and with teachers as well. If you don't have a good relationship with your teacher, have you tried to improve that relationship yourself? You know, are you just sitting there waiting for the teacher to do everything for you? Or maybe you have a part to play in this, and talk to your teacher more. Ask for a chance to talk to them. Sure, if they don't talk to you and they ignore you and they won't allow you to speak to them, okay, maybe there's grounds to say the relationship is not good and it's not going to improve. But have you tried this? Have you tried to improve the relationship yourself? These are questions you have to ask yourself before you make any decision or do anything. Just ask yourself, well, what's going on here? Is the problem me, or is it the teacher or the place, the situation? Go through all that first and then start considering if you feel you need to go and find a new teacher. Well, it does happen in the practice, but don't rush into anything. You really learn about yourself in the situation you're in first. Try and understand what's going on and see if you can improve things yourself first.
Sadhu Lumpur. Does anyone have any further questions or comments? Lumpur, there are no further questions.
Okay, very nice to talk to you all tonight, and we can always talk again next time. So until then, may the blessings of Buddha Dhamma Sangha guide you and protect you, and we'll see you again.